ChatGPT is ready to disrupt search. We talk about unnecessary AI and alternatives to Hootsuite. All this and more on today's Strong Coffee Drip. Hi again, everyone. I'm Brian from Strong Coffee Marketing, and I'm joined by a man that needs no introduction, but I give him one every week. Iain, how you doing, Iain?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good now that I got through our introduction there. I had to read it like
Yeah.
two or three times. I couldn't figure it out today. So this is take number
You're
3
showing
of the
people,
podcast.
you're showing people behind the curtain. You've got
Yeah,
to keep
behind the
that.
curtain of our podcast. Yes. Normally I don't screw up, and I screwed up. Iain, how are you staying cool? You managing okay? It is hot.
It is toasty out there. Yep. We've got our aircon is kind of on the fritz. It's coming and going, so I'm just trying to make the most of it when it's working.
Yeah. Our air conditioning isn't working either because I don't have it.
Ah.
So we're learning to deal with heat.
Mhm.
It's been a lot of fun. My children are really enjoying it. So to kind of stay cool, I went to the office on the weekend on Saturday. We went in for a movie night because we have air conditioning there. I highly recommend it if you need to cool down. And we watched the movie It. I'd never seen It before. Have you ever seen It?
I haven't. I've seen. Did you watch the original one or
The
the new
original,
one that came out like 5 years ago?
the first, because there's two. First one I watched.
Right. Yes, I haven't seen it, but I would quite like to. I think I've seen probably about 50% of it in 5 minute snippets over the last 30 odd years.
Yeah. It was good.
Yeah.
Stephen King, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
What would you say, though, because we were looking for, my kids like scary movies. Do you have a favorite scary movie?
I'm not really a scary movie kind of guy, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I quite like the more thriller ones that are a bit, rather than sort of horror, just the ones that make you feel a bit uneasy. I quite like
Yeah.
those. So kind of more psychological things rather than jump scares. But yeah, I can't think of one, to be honest.
My kids love the jump scares. That's all
Right.
they want is just jump scare after jump scare. And it had some of those, which
Right.
was good. I had thought, like, for me, one of my favorite movies, although it's more gruesome, is any of the Saw movies.
Oh,
But I
yeah.
didn't want to show those to my kids because those are more just very gruesome
Yeah.
as opposed to jump scares. You get like a old school Michael Myers jump scare after jump scare.
Sure.
That's probably kind of where I like to go. But
Yes.
yeah, it was good. And there's air conditioning, so it worked out really well. We've got some interesting topics to cover today. Even though it is summer, the news just keeps on going. It doesn't stop for anyone. So let's get right into it. In a recent interview with The Verge, the Atlantic CEO Nicholas Thompson confirmed that OpenAI is moving forward with plans to launch a search product and that the content from the Atlantic will be included. This highlights the potential significance of ChatGPT's search capabilities, suggesting it could become a pivotal way for people to navigate the internet. This move aligns with OpenAI CEO Sam Altman's vision to disrupt traditional search using large language models like GPT 4.0. While initial capabilities are limited, ChatGPT's traffic has surged, indicating growing interest. So I guess the question here, now that we see the potential for GPT and OpenAI to get involved into the search game, do you think that someone could actually dethrone Google when it comes to search?
Sure. Yeah, I think this is a really interesting subject. When a couple of years ago, when ChatGPT first came out, obviously you and I were sitting in the office. The first time either of us had used it, we were just kind of sitting in the office almost trying to trip it up, I guess.
We were
just
basically
going,
screwing
yeah,
with it, is what we
yeah.
were doing.
And at that time, we kind of had a conversation saying, this is the end of search. If this becomes a search engine, it's all anyone's ever going to want to know. They ask the question and they get the answer they need. But having seen what's happened since, I'm not really so sure anymore. Obviously, Google has been introducing AI or sort of snippets at the top of the search results for quite a while now. It doesn't say anything in the article we read about how this would be monetized. And that
Yeah.
makes me wonder, is this going to be, obviously OpenAI are going to want to monetize it somehow. Does this mean it's going to only be available for paying customers, people who are on the Pro plan or the Plus plan? If so, it's not going to change anything. People are still going to go to Google as their first base because most people aren't paying subscribers. If it's not that, but it's perhaps the people who want to be involved, like you say, the Atlantic did say that their information will be on there. what if someone doesn't want their information on there? Do they need the consent of the person whose information they're taking? If so, if you're using it as your search engine, you kind of have to go in understanding that not all the information is going to be there. It may give you an answer which is quite different to what you're looking for. If, for example, if it's something to do with medicine and not, md.web or .com or whatever, there's certain websites where you generally find that answer perhaps aren't included, things like that. So I'm intrigued to see how it progresses, but based on what we currently know, I don't see Google being dethroned at this stage.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. Like if it's cherry picking information, not on purpose, like it's trying to create a bias, just because it's only got access to certain information, that can definitely sway the results one way or the other, and maybe not give people the best results necessarily.
Right.
I still think anyone is a long ways away from knocking off Google. Google's been doing it for so long. It's built up that trust. People recognize the name. They just know if I need to find something, this is a place that I'm going to go. Now,
exactly.
Yeah, I could see it, an OpenAI taking a chunk out of Google.
Sure.
But I don't know if all of a sudden the tables are going to turn or whatever. Yeah. You mentioned it, the AI that Google has rolled out. I think if you just went and asked them flat out, do you think you've done a good job? I think they would say no. I don't.
Yeah.
They haven't really captured what they want to do with AI, but you know what? I still think if the money was down and I had to pick one team to build me something to do with search, I'm still going with Google.
Absolutely.
10 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
So I think they'll eventually get more stuff right because they still have some of the brightest minds in the entire world working there. I still think they'll get it right and produce a search product from an AI standpoint that would kind of be up against anyone would be great. So
yeah. I feel, the more we talk about this didn't really occur to me at the start, but I feel like this is a kind of a stepping stone that's going to end up being unnecessary. We're going to go from people searching via the screen on their phone to the assistants where you're just asking the assistant anything, regardless of whether it's on your phone, whether it's online, if it's Siri or Alexa or whatever, whichever one you use. I think there's just going to be, the end goal is going to be you ask that and it tells you something. And this on-screen search in the ChatGPT style, I mean, the GPT-4o is already doing this within the ChatGPT app. But yeah, rather than people using it like a search engine, they're just going to skip that step almost and get straight to the point where you're asking the assistant as if it was another person, and then that's going to tell you.
Yeah. And you don't necessarily know where they're sourcing it from. It's maybe giving you the best answer from a variety of sources.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you said, we're kind of there already. It's only going to get better. Mm-hmm. For me, a bigger question beyond is Google going to get dethroned is, as marketers and content creators and small businesses, what are you going to have to do content-wise, web-wise, to alter what you're doing to align with this new type of search? And we've talked about this on the podcast before.
Absolutely.
And I think it's going to be something we're going to end up talking about every couple months moving forward, because the idea of put content on a website, Google finds it, Google picks it up. There's a variety of factors at play, and that's how your content ranks. What's that going to look like in 3 years?
Absolutely.
And there's more voice at the table and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's going to be fascinating.
Any individual website going to look like in 3 years?
Yes, so I don't know. But going back to the original question, I think you and I both agree Google is going to remain king, but there are going to be more alternatives, like beyond Ask Jeeves. Like, still waiting for Jeeves to come back. But
I think part of what it shows how strong Google's position is in this is that Google is now a verb. It's not just the name of the company; it's the verb. Go Google it. Right? So it's kind of like, what happens if we stop using Google to Google things? Do we still call it Googling things? I think people would, which is kind of...
just like Kleenex and Kraft Dinner.
Absolutely right.
And Coke.
Yeah.
Like the same idea.
Indeed.
Yeah. So from helpful AI to potentially really unnecessary AI, both Meta and YouTube and X, I should mention X is doing this too, are testing AI-powered comment summaries. Think of these like the Cliff's Notes of a comment section. Users on Facebook have seen summaries of comment threads appear at the top of the comments that summarize the thoughts of everyone below. YouTube has been testing something similar, and it looks like they're just rolling it out now on Shorts as well. Many people have already voiced their opinions about this online. They don't like these summaries because sometimes they don't really capture the essence or the true feelings of the people below in the comments, while others feel that it takes away from the social element of social media. You know, part of social is leaving comments and reading comments and replying to comments. And if AI is kind of just taking that all and giving you a summary, you can still read them. They're all below still, but it's giving you a summary for those that don't want to read the comments. Is that taking away the social element of social media as well? So AI is being used in a lot of cool and helpful ways. We talk about it all the time. But in some cases like this, do you feel that AI is just being wedged into things unnecessarily?
No question about that. At the moment, it's the buzzword of the moment. People want to be able to say their product uses AI purely for marketing, regardless of how they use it or whether they even do use it. I think it's like I say, it's the current trend. People want to say they're using it, so they just shoehorn it into anything they can.
Wedge it and shove it into anything, like powered by AI. Look what AI can do.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, but I think it really takes away from the social element too. Like part of that whole social experience is reading comments and seeing what people say and responding to individual comments. And it's almost like if something just comes in and gives you the Coles notes, the Cliff notes, and puts them at the top, done. Like, what's the fun in it?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that there is that social element. Although I also kind of feel like the YouTube comments section is kind of like that's the basement of the internet, isn't it? It's kind of like the worst of the worst kind of interaction that you can see on there a lot of times. So I don't know why they're choosing to start there, but they are. So with some of these tools, but yes, it's certainly interesting. But as you say, I think very much unnecessary in many cases.
You know, AI is smart. I want to see it try to figure out some of those YouTube comment sections.
Yeah,
because you know what, a lot of times the comments, they'll be referring to things that you like, almost like inside jokes on the internet, or this happens a lot on Reddit.
Yeah.
If you don't know what somebody's talking about, it's like, I got to go figure out what you're talking about to make sense of this entire thread. AI is not going to know. AI is going to try to sum it up as best it can, and it'll totally miss the boat.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just about to say. I was going to say, what happens? Does Reddit adopt a similar system so that at the top of each subreddit you've just got, here's the summary, and it would just be absolute nonsense, I'm sure.
just chaos at the top.
Yes, exactly.
No one would know what it's talking about, but I'd like to see those for fun.
Mm-hmm.
There's some Facebook comment sections too where I'm wondering if AI is just going to walk away from them. Just like, you can have this one. I don't want to waste my brain power on this mess.
Well, after the suggestion for putting some glue on your pizza, we do know that Reddit is being that OpenAI is using Reddit to as part of its algorithm, its training data.
Wouldn't recommend glue on pizza either. It's not very good. So you know what, and we're going to see more and more of this, like you said. It's how can we kind of shove AI into something to show that this is new and improved, or this is different, or this is smarter. It reminds me a lot of when there's a kind of a superfood on the market, and all of a sudden you can get basically anything with this, this thing in it, and it's like, no, just make a cookie, or like, don't worry about trying to inject it with something else, just let it be. But I would say the vast majority of AI that I've seen on some of the tools we use has been really helpful, not unnecessary.
Yeah.
But you know what, here comes Facebook to change that. So I haven't seen one of these in the wild yet. I've seen images of them, but I haven't seen one yet. I want to look at them and see them, but I'm not going to go too deep into them. So last week we talked about alternatives to Photoshop, and you gave a really good example. And I talked a little bit about Canva. You were talking about Affinity, and people really appreciated that video. We got a lot of good responses from it. So I said, you know what? We're going to have to jump back into tool time again and look at alternatives to something else, because when the people want something, Iain, we need to deliver. And sometimes, even if they don't want something, we still deliver, like
Deliver
the history of John Denver last week.
it. Of course.
Our best performing short of the week was my brief history on John Denver, which shows how aligned our audience is to a marketing podcast. So,
There you go.
kudos to the algorithms for figuring us out or not figuring us out. This week, we're going to look at alternatives to Hootsuite. So Hootsuite is an extremely popular tool. It's a very powerful social media management tool. I see that they're integrating some new features into it right now involving being able to monitor conversations, etc. I've used Hootsuite in the past with some of the clients we work with. It's a really popular tool, but I have found that many of our clients find it to be somewhat cost prohibitive, especially if they have larger teams. So I thought we would maybe take a look at some alternatives to Hootsuite for people that are maybe looking for something with maybe a few less features, less money, etc. And I want to talk about two specifically, two that we currently use. One we use on behalf of clients or with clients, another tool we use internally. First one I want to talk about is Loomly. So we've talked about Loomly, I want to say it was probably about 10 episodes ago now. We talked briefly about it, and we discovered Loomly, you and I, Iain, a number of years back on a project. And we were doing just this, looking for an alternative to Hootsuite. They had a larger team, but budgetary constraints prevented them from going to something like a Hootsuite or even a Sprout. And we came across Loomly, and it really kind of fit their needs to a T. And since then, I've got a number of clients that use it. A few things I really like about Loomly, and these are not paid endorsements, by the way. We don't get paid to talk about these tools. Loomly, a really powerful social media scheduling and workflow tool. What really got our attention, and you'll agree with this, Iain, because you were working with me on it, the idea of creating custom workflows was a big thing. So this tool is really popular with clients we have that are in the government space, municipalities, etc., where maybe they have a variety of departments and they want all of those departments to have a seat at the social media table, but don't necessarily want those departments to be able to post directly, but submit their ideas into a workflow system. Those ideas then come to a comms team or a marketing team. They can figure out what works, what doesn't, and then decide where it should go. And there are other tools that do this, but I just really liked Loomly because it kind of gave you a whole variety of options when it came to creating these workflows. So for example, one of the clients we work with, they have a team of communications people, but each communications person aligns with a couple of individual departments. So you can create a workflow where if social media ideas come in from Department A and Department B, they come directly to the person responsible for A and B and not necessarily the whole team. You can have them go to the whole team if you want, but being able to customize a workflow like that was really handy for an organization like a government or municipality. The other one that I think was really cool with this was when we work with municipalities, a lot of times their emergency services team, whether it be fire, police, like bylaw, that kind of thing, they might want to have their own workflow because they might be posting after hours when the comms team isn't around. So you can actually make custom workflows for them where you could have the fire department can post directly on X without any sort of gatekeepers or people to check things. They can post directly there, but maybe would require a comms person to post on Instagram or Facebook. And by creating all those different workflows, you can really maximize the performance of everybody involved while keeping everything secure and safe. So Loomly, a really, really great tool. Customer service-wise, they've been really easy to work with. They're making updates to it all the time, and cost-wise, it's very doable for most teams.
Absolutely, yes. That was one of the things that I was going to mention. If you didn't, that their customer service did impress me when we first started using them. They were very open to suggestions that we'd made or questions that we had about how to do specific things. And if it couldn't do it, they were saying, okay, we'll put that on the list of things that we'll consider in the future. Things they seemed really receptive to what people actually need. So that's great.
Yeah. High fives, Loomly. High fives. High fives. Second tool I want to talk about is maybe a little bit different than Loomly or Hootsuite or Sprout. Repurpose.io. So you may have seen repurpose ads on Instagram. That's where I saw them originally. And we actually use repurpose.io for our podcast. So what I really like about it is it's really good for people that want to repurpose and schedule their content and devise like interesting workflows, etc. So basically, the way it works is when you go to set up a workflow, you pick a source and you pick a destination. Now, a source could be Google Drive, it could be your Facebook page, it could be your TikTok account, and then the destination is where that content is going to end up. So when you set these things up, what you can do is not only can you have content get posted regularly through, I put all my videos in Google Drive, they get pulled into repurpose. I schedule when they should go out and they go out, very similar to a Hootsuite, for example. But what's really interesting about it is, let's say we set up a workflow where when things get posted over on TikTok, every day it goes and looks at our TikTok, finds the new content that's being posted and pulls it over here. And at 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock, or whatever time you want to set it up every day, it will take one of those videos and put it on our Instagram. So it's not always just pulling from a single destination. You can have those sources show up all over the place. And it really allows you to maximize your content and repurpose your content. If you've got videos and you want to turn them into audiograms, you actually create the template for it, and it can pull a video like a short that you've got on YouTube. It'll pull the audio automatically, put it over top of your template, and then post it wherever you want it to go to. So a little bit different than your traditional put your content into the system, it gets pushed out. This one has that opportunity for different sources and destinations, and that's what makes it really, really unique. And I know for our podcast, obviously it's all video. It's worked out really, really well where we can kind of maximize our time, because we don't have a ton of time to be able to do podcast stuff because we have to do our actual jobs of working at an agency. But it's been really, really handy, really affordable, and customer service wise, they've been excellent too. So that would be a second one that I would recommend. Iain, you probably don't have anything to add because I don't know if you've ever actually seen it in action.
No, I haven't used Repurpose. It does sound like a great tool. I know that you use it a lot, like you say, particularly for the podcasts. But yeah, no, the classic, the tools that people are perhaps comparing these against, they're all great. I mean, we're not saying anything against these, but as you mentioned, sometimes they are a bit cost prohibitive, perhaps. So these are just some good options for people, I think.
Good alternatives. So at least do your homework when picking a tool and see which one works best for you. But two more, Loomly and repurpose.io. Highly recommend. And like I said, we actually use them, so we know how they work, and we did our research when we decided on what we were going to use too. So there we go. July 17th. It was last Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
It was a busy day. I don't know if you know this, Iain. It was a busy day.
Right.
It was the second day of Amazon Prime Days here in Canada. It was my sister's birthday. It was National Hot Dog Day, where I know they had a deal on A&W Whistle Dogs. I did not partake in that. I wish I would have. And above all else, maybe not above my sister's birthday, but above all else, World Emoji Day. And I know you probably had a big celebration at your house.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Party, cake, everything like that. Yeah. So did we. Big day around our house. And in celebration of this incredible day, let's talk a little bit about emojis. Two questions for you, Iain. What is your favorite emoji? And second of all, do you find that emojis are maybe a little bit more accepted in the workplace than they were, say, 5 years ago?
Sure. So first, to answer your first question, I don't know if I'd call it my favorite, but certainly one that I find myself using more often than I possibly should is the nervous laughter emoji, the sort of the smile, but with the bead of sweat pouring down the forehead. I find myself using that one a bit liberally sometimes. In terms of using emojis in the workplace, I do think they are much more sort of acceptable now. I mean, we see obviously people are using them all the time on LinkedIn. I certainly think that internally within your teams and things like that, or emailing colleagues in particular, it's not uncommon to use them there and then. I think they're still perhaps creeping into me using them with clients and things. I don't use them very often, and generally when I do, if I was including emoji when emailing a client, it would be very much one of the traditional, some form of smiley face. I would think would be the one. Have a great weekend with a smiley face at the end, things like that. I don't know that I'm into using the poop emoji with our clients yet.
Please don't.
Things like exactly, yeah, or some of the other ones. But yeah, I think that obviously when we're writing emoji, when we're writing sort of posts or making boosted posts for our clients and things, we'll often include emojis in there because of the audience that it's for. So I think that is certainly normalizing it within the business world.
Yeah. So you've got kind of like me. I've got a list of clients that I would probably consider using them with, maybe if I wanted to. But obviously, we're not going to put them on the first time I'm ever meeting a potential client using emojis. But you're right. Internally, we use them all the time. And I think they're just becoming a little bit more recognized because in a way it's, a picture's worth 1,000 words. It's kind of like you can just use an emoji and sometimes answer somebody's question, but sometimes make it more confusing. And I think that's where my favorite emoji comes in. I like thinking man, it's like thinking man. And I really like using thinking man as a response to questions because no one really knows what it means. So they could be like, hey, Brian, how are you today? You respond with thinking man. And now all of a sudden they're on their back foot. They're like, whoa, what is it? Like, did I not know something? Like, why are you humming and hawing about whether or not you're in a good mood today? So, keep people on edge. That's what I like to do.
Fair enough.
Answer yes or no or thinking man.
Or just, yeah. Or
hey, Brian, what do you want to have for lunch today?
Yeah.
So, it's kind of an all-purpose one, and
it's a good one.
It's just kind of enough mystery behind thinking man that it leaves people kind of wondering, and that's what I like. I don't like answering people's questions straight up.
Fair enough.
And a bonus question, like I always like to throw in, that Iain has no idea we're going to talk about. Two of them because the horror movie ones, that wasn't in the notes either. Yeah.
No.
So, you know what? It's time to do a second bonus question. July 17th was National Hot Dog Day as well.
Right.
What's your favorite way to top a hot dog?
Oh, I would say it is pretty simple and straightforward. Ketchup, mustard, nothing else.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Then that's kind of the standard, right? Like, because no matter where you go, you're going to find ketchup and mustard.
Yeah.
And I would agree with you there. I'll sometimes do a little bit of relish. What I really like, but I only can do this at home because they don't have it in hot dog places, a little bit of Cheese Whiz.
Oh.
Put that Cheese Whiz in there, then your ketchup and mustard over top. You're in for a treat, Iain.
Fair enough.
So, just something to keep in mind. I like hot dogs a lot. They're fantastic, in my opinion. A big thing in Scotland?
Less so than here, I would say. I mean, when I think of hot dogs in the UK, I would say they're common at the movie theatre and not really anywhere else. Because we don't there are more and more 7-Elevens popping up, but I don't know if you can even get them in 7-Elevens there or not, to be honest with you. I consider it a convenience store food or something you do while camping or something like that. And
you don't consider it high-end dining. Like when I'm telling my kids I'm taking them out for high-end food and then we go to Costco, you wouldn't know?
I'm sure there are many. Well, Costco's another place, of course. Yeah, you associate it with there. But I'm sure there are many places that do luxury or boutique or high-end hot dogs. I'm sure there are many restaurants that do so. But
that's what our next podcast is going to be about, high-end hot dog locations. So I'm really excited for that, Iain.
I look forward to it.
Yes. Okay, we've covered a lot of topics: hot dogs, horror movies, emojis, AI. Again, the algorithm won't know what to do with us. No John Denver talk this week, but that is what it is. That wraps up another episode of the Strong Coffee Drip, episode 21. We'll be back next week. Iain, stay cool. It's supposed to cool off about Wednesday-ish. I think it's going to get a little bit better, a little bit more doable.
That sounds good.
Thank you for tuning in. Iain, thank you as always for hopping on today. Let's get back to work. Have a great week, everyone.